In the far reaches of space, where the reaches of star systems dimmed to the gentle glow of forgotten suns, lay a galaxy encased in mystery and intrigue. The Forgotten Galaxy. Long ago it had been a vibrant hub of interstellar trade and cultural exchange, with its worlds interconnected by shimmering lanes of light, known as star roads. However, centuries of neglect had turned it into a shadow of its former self, where stories were whispered in dark corners and legends of ancient civilizations lingered like ghosts. Dahlia Riven stood at the observation deck of the starship Genesis, her fingers tracing the cold metal railing as she stared out into the abyss of the void. The ship had seen better days, its hull scarred with the remnant wounds of both battles and neglect. With dark curls cascading down her shoulders and an expression wrought with determination, Dahlia reflected on her journey. Once a promising commander in the Galactic Alliance, she had abandoned a life of prestige to forge her own path, a path that had led her to this forsaken corner of the cosmos. Behind her, the low hum of machinery followed Captain Joran Kale, a grizzled veteran with silver-streaked hair and eyes that wore the weight of 100 battles. He stepped into the view of the dimly lit deck, carrying a mug of steaming nebula tea. "You're lost in thought again," he noted, his voice a gravelly baritone that rumbled like distant thunder. "I'm just considering our next move," Dahlia replied, turning to face him. "We've waited long enough, Joran. The collective is tightening its grip on the remaining territories. We can't afford to sit idly." The collective, an authoritarian regime that had risen from the ashes of the Galactic Alliance, was a constant shadow haunting them. Its fleet had positioned itself like wolves circling the last remnants of the galaxy's free worlds, ready to reclaim what had once been lost. The silent screams of planets extinguished under their ruthless conquest reverberated across the cosmos, reaching even this decayed starship. "We need a plan, Dahlia. Cracking into Terathos might be the key, but it's rough territory," Joran cautioned, taking a sip of his tea. "The reports indicate they've built a blockade around the old ruins. Every ship that ventured close didn't return." "Won't be every ship," she declared fiercely. "The Aegis, the engine of our rebellion, awaits in the ruins of Hensel IV. The ancient technology hidden within could turn the tide against the collective. We can't let fear dictate our actions. Maybe it's time we accepted our place in this forsaken galaxy," Joran said, his brow furrowing. "There are better paths than wars fought on piles of bones, and surrender to tyranny," Dahlia retorted. "The ghosts of Hensel are the whispers of our legacies. We owe it to them to reclaim it." Her voice hung in the air, laced with hope and desperation. As tensions mounted, the Odyssey, Dahlia's ragtag crew of outcasts, smugglers, and freedom fighters, watched through screens and communication devices, some bustling around the control panels, and others deep in conversations about the next course of action. Amidst the cluster of faces, Vera Kryn, a cybernetic engineer with metal plates woven into her skin, glanced away from her workstation. Her mismatched eyes, one a brilliant blue, another a metallic silver, flashed with excitement. "Dahlia's right," she chimed in, her voice earnest. "The Aegis technology could advance us beyond the collective's capabilities. It's all we have left to fight back." For a moment the crew hesitated. They were a band of misfits, stitched together not by choice but by providential circumstance. Each held their own scars, both seen and unseen. A flicker of hope sparked amidst them, a defiance against the growing darkness that consumed their galaxy. "Vera," Dahlia addressed her, the resolve in her tone hardening, "can you run the last calibrations? We may have to jump from a few light years away to avoid detection." "Already on it," the engineer replied, leaning over her console, fingers dancing like deft butterflies across the keys. "If we plot the trajectory carefully, we might avoid the patrols. But I'll need everyone on board. No one can slack off." "Let's move then," Joran commanded, rallying the team. "Gabe, rally the crew. We leave in 30. The crew sprang into action, and hearts beat in rhythm with the ship's engines. Dahlia's thoughts were filled with fleeting images of Hensel IV, ghostly ruins whispering of secrets long buried, an ancient library of technology waiting to be unearthed. The key to freedom for the forgotten galaxy surely lay among those relics. As the ship prepped for departure, they entered the Star Road's shimmering lane, an ethereal bridge amidst the darkness. Dahlia stood at the front, gazing deep into the lights, stretching like tendrils through the void. "The collective is not the only threat," she muttered to herself. A sense of foreboding crept over her. We must also contend with what lies beyond our perception. There are things forgotten in this galaxy that could stir the fury of the ancients. Without warning, an alert blinked across her console, drawing her attention back to reality. Incoming transmission. One of our scouts, a drifter from Vega Conclave, reported a major shift in the political landscape. Put it through, Dahlia demanded, her heart racing. The screen flickered to life, revealing the grizzled visage of Theo Darnell, an infamous smuggler with a knack for digging up information. His tanned skin and weathered face were veined with stormy energies as he leaned into the screen. Dahlia, listen carefully, he said, his voice laced with urgency. The collective has allied with the Warborn. They're planning an assault on Hensel IV too. If our little expedition to the ruins occurs, they're probably preparing a trap. What do you mean, Warborn? Yoren asked, skepticism blending with concern. They're a myth. A myth that's becoming very real, Theo replied. They live between the fabric of this galaxy. You thought they disappeared when war swept through the stars centuries ago, leaving only myths and tales. But they've been awakening, and it's now clear the collective is awakening them to punish the generals of the rebellion. Silence echoed through the ship, tension palpable amongst the crew. The notion of fighting the collective was already daunting enough, but to think they would face a force believed to have been lost in time conjured images of Michael, the once revered general who had vanished in the ruins, shifting the legends of the past into ominous shadows. Are you certain of this? Dahlia's voice broke through, gripped firm by desperation. We need to know before we commit. They've been spotted near the outer worlds, Theo continued, stones accumulating in his throat. They're hungry and unforgiving. The Warborn will not destroy you as you are, but as what you could be, a force that would threaten the very structure of their world. Be careful, Dahlia. The transmission shattered, leaving the room cloaked in unease as Dahlia processed Theo's words. The legend of the Warborn echoed in her mind, beings once heralded by ancient civilizations, artisans of war and chaos. They existed as echoes of the past, mischievous phantoms that thrived on destruction. We're doomed, someone murmured beneath their breath. Don't let fear consume you, Dahlia commanded, stepping forward, fire igniting her spirit. As long as we breathe, we will fight back. We've battled through the odds and lived despite the darkness. The ancient stories never told us how the Warborn came to be. But this is our chapter now, and we will not falter. The Forgotten Galaxy isn't just ours. It belongs to all the fallen. As the ship hurtled deeper into the Star Road, the weight of their impending confrontation loomed heavier than ever. Each crew member grappled with this new reality, the call to battle against figures woven into the fabric of myth. It was a bulwark of chaos against the backdrop of their histories, a war not just for survival, but for the soul of the galaxy itself. Dahlia turned to Joran, whose expression mirrored her own. Adjust course. We make for Hensel IV. 60 seconds to arrival, Vera announced, a hint of adrenaline layering her voice. Buckle up. In that moment, every heart on the Genesis beat hard and fast, a warrior's rhythm resonating through their resolve. They understood the darkness ahead wouldn't yield easily. The road unfurling before them was filled with shadows and strife. As they plunged deeper into the void and closer to the ruins, an ancient mystery awaited. The Forgotten Galaxy lay beneath the bullet-streaked remnants of civilization, a war about to awaken. And so, they braced themselves, ready to face the intertwining forces of myth and might. The stage was set, shadows dancing upon the precipice of war. The war of the Forgotten Galaxy had begun. The Genesis swept into the fray of confrontation and discovery, opening a pathway riddled with uncertainty. Their journey had just started, and before the dawn, a storm awaited beyond the stars. The echoes of battles yet to come reverberated in time, a call to destiny lingering in the cold expanse of the cosmos. Little did they know that the choices they made would ripple through the galaxy, forever intertwining their fates with the legacy of the Warborn, and shaping the echoes of a battle as old as time itself. The hum of the engines reverberated throughout the Genesis as it surged deeper into the now familiar stretch of the Star Road. Dahlia Riven stood alongside Joran Kale in the command center, their eyes fixed on the swirling hues of light churning beyond the viewport. With every passing nanosecond, they forged further into a realm where hope and despair clashed like titans. The air was thick with unspoken tension, electric and brittle, as the crew prepared for the unknown ahead. Sensor readings are clear, Vera Kryn reported from her station, the flickering holograms casting an eerie glow upon her face. The outskirts of Hensel IV are stable, but we have no data from inside the planet's atmosphere. We know they've reinforced the area, but if we can tap into that ancient tech, it'll be worth the risk. Make sure we have a clean path to the library ruins once we land, Dahlia instructed, her voice steady despite the storm brewing within her heart. We can't afford to lose time. We won't, Vera assured with a nod before diving back into her calculations. As the seconds ticked down to their arrival, a collective stillness draped over the crew like a heavy shroud. The unrelenting anticipation pulsed in their veins like an old battle hymn, echoing both their fears of the warborn and the thrill of reclaiming lost artifacts. Sparked by adrenaline, nearly every crew member was engaged in hushed conversations, each trying to process the weight of their looming venture. "Do you think we'll see them?" one of the younger members, a former miner from Zeta Minor, inquired, casting wary glances over his shoulder. "The warborn, I mean. Everyone says they could take any form, control shadows like they're made of smoke." "It's all hyperbole," another spoke up dismissively, an arms dealer from the fringes of known space. "Just old wives' tales from planets afraid to face the truth. What we need to worry about is the collective's patrols who'll fight to keep this tech from us. Maybe we should have snuck in like shadow weavers instead of barging in guns blazing," the miner suggested, his voice shaky. "Not like we have a solid idea about how this tech works," Dahlia interjected. "Listen, every shadow needs light to exist. Our mission isn't just to retrieve. It's to inspire movement. To let them know there's still a fight left in us. If we hope to rally the battalions across the forgotten galaxy, we need a symbol. The Aegis can be our rallying cry against the collective." Two states of spirit danced before her, hope and fear, wrapping around her like chains. Yet their fears held no weight compared to the very real threat of the warborn or the enforcers of the collective. As the thought lingered in the back of her mind, the ship jolted violently, tearing her focus away. "Systems failing," Vera shouted, fingers scrambling across the console, desperately trying to regain control. Dahlia's gut knotted in an instant. "What's causing the malfunction?" "Unknown interference. It's like," the engineer faltered, watching the readings warp in disarray. "The warborn are here." A chilling dread seeped into the command center. An electric crackle filled the air as Joran barked orders. "Prepare for emergency mode. Shields up. Gab Sirena, engage the anti-detection protocols." Flashes of alarms blared through the ship, splashing red and yellow warnings across their screens. As they skimmed the atmosphere of Hensel IV, the dark cloud formations swirled like harbingers, accusing them of trespassing, blocking their entry from the world below. The Genesis shook again. The wind outside howled like the laughter of ghosts, and through the tumult, Dahlia gripped the central control table, grounding herself amidst the chaos unfolding before her. "They've come to take us apart," she muttered, disbelief granting way to steely resolve. "Hold tight." In tandem with Joran's efforts, Dahlia fought back with everything she had, tuning her focus to the console. The air crackled, thick with dread as she connected to the ship's systems, searching for any way to stabilize the ship. Lights flickered and sputtered. The crew shifted nervously, survival instincts igniting their senses. "Here's the issue," Vera barked, her brow furrowed. "They're using technology that is completely unknown to us. It's cutting through our shields." More erratic shaking skidded the oxygen from the room. Crew members were thrown off balance as alarms shrieked like banshees, declaring their precarious fate. Through the rattling debris, Dahlia sensed something shift in the air. With one final burst, the Genesis wrenched from its chaotic inertia and broke through the clouded remnants of the atmosphere, slamming down onto the surface of Hensel IV in a cataclysmic shudder that sent a wave of energy surging through its hull. Panting heavily, the crew members stumbled back, lingering close to the safety rails as the ship settled, smoke curling from the control panels. "Status report," Joran bellowed, his eyes alight with fervor as he surveyed their grim reality. "Systems, down but stable," Vera replied, shaking off the shock. "We've lost primary propulsion, and the scanners are fried. But we're on the ground." As Dahlia regained composure, she raised her chin, determination igniting her expression. "We press forward, whatever it takes. Gather all necessary gear for a field mission. We need to find the ruins before they spot us." The crew exchanged uneasy glances but fell into action, urgency pulling them from the stress of near disaster. Dahlia stepped aside, allowing her mind to focus. Logic and quick thinking conspired within her, foreseeing the dire scenario of traversing the unknown world. The Warborn had successfully forced them from the skies. She had no illusions that it would be smooth sailing now that they were on the surface. Henzel Lefort is dangerous territory, she murmured to herself, assessing the faint light peeking through swaths of iron trees outside the windows. The once thriving library of technology was shrouded in whispering vines, twisted metal mockeries looming overhead. It was a realm forgotten but brimming with secrets. Her eyes scanned the ship's console, their once safe haven, that now felt like a ticking bomb, tense and ready to ignite at the slightest touch. We must coordinate our entry to avoid detection. Too many lives hang in the balance for us to fail now. As they donned their gear, Dahlia's thoughts drifted to Theo's warning. The Warborn were stirring, and a force darker than they had anticipated resided on Henzel Lefort. Her heart raced, but she would not let fear dictate her choices. They'd risen from the ashes of despair before. All of that mattered was how she would seize the future ahead. The crew gathered around the exit hatch, determination etched onto each face. They filed out in cautious silence, tension wrapped around them like a second skin. Outside, the world unfurled in striking contrast, green and gray coiling like the tendrils of a giant serpent, the air breathable yet charged with that foreboding energy. "Stay close and keep scanning for heat signatures," Dahlia instructed, glancing toward the tufted wilderness. "We need to locate the library ruins." As they stepped cautiously into the embrace of Henzel Lefort, the sense of impending dread only deepened. The remnants of ancient technology loomed left behind like memorials, their stories carved within the twisted roots. Sudden rustlings amongst the gnarled foliage sent their senses spiraling into overdrive. "Keep your eyes open," Joran relayed, every fiber of his being alert. "We can't afford to be caught off guard." "Just need to find that library," cried Gabe, scanning the area, raising a beamer pistol. "Once we grab the Aegis, we'll show them what we're made of." All at once the shadows danced under the pale luminescence of the planet's dual suns, shifting like the whispers of fate. As they forged deeper into the dense forest, the sense of damp earth and strange flora wafted into their nostrils, a reminder that they were not alone. "Over there," shouted Sirena, pointing toward a clearing ahead. Dahlia followed her gaze. Through the thick foliage, a massive ancient structure emerged, half buried under the burden of time's relentless progression. Vines snaked across the cracks in the stone while flecks of green soot coated the once gleaming library. They had found what they sought. "Let's move," Dahlia commanded, ensuring the team spread out around her. As the crew approached, their anticipation mixed with uncertainty. The library's double doors loomed overhead as the vines pulsed and twitched, alive and twisting as if the very structure were still a living sentient thing, guarding the knowledge hidden within. "Looks like they trapped it well," Vera whispered cautiously, her fingers tracing the ancient symbols, once glowing with vigor. "What a shame. We need to breach these doors." "There's more going on than meets the eye," Dahlia murmured, anxiety gnawing at her insides. Steeling herself, she stepped toward the entrance, determination offsetting the swirling uncertainty. Halfway through her approach, a violent gust of wind whipped through the clearing, sending the echoes of whispers surfacing within the air. The crew exchanged confused glances, every instinct sharpening under the pressure of looming danger. "I think someone just arrived," Joran warned, his voice low as they turned their attention to the tree line. Emerging from the shadows, figures cloaked in tattered garments broke through, faces shrouded in mist and mystery. They moved with an ethereal grace, their forms flickering with an unsettling blend of shadows and light, a malignant beauty that pulled at the threads of fate. Not just collective scouts, Dahlia realized as she locked eyes with the nearest form, its gaze piercing through her resolve. The Warborn had come, drawn to the potent allure of what the crew sought. Instinctively, Dahlia raised her weapon, heart racing. "Prepare for battle. Wait. There may be a chance," Joran cautioned, both caution and urgency spilling over him as he grabbed at her arm. But it was too late. One of the Warborn stepped forward, an air of command radiating from it, its voice slithering through the air like silk. "Why disturb the slumber of greatness?" The words twisted through them, barely human as if spoken by a living shadow. "We seek the Aegis," Dahlia declared, forcing her voice to remain unbroken. The weight of her determination hung thick in the air, an incantation to forge a brighter future. The Warborn laughed, a sound that sent chills like ice down her spine. The Aegis is not for the weak-hearted. You presume to claim what you do not understand? Dahlia squared her shoulders against the encroaching darkness, her mind racing. No. We will not turn back. We are the sentinels of a new dawn. Our history is written in defiance, and we will reclaim what has been lost. The air thickened with tension, cracks of energy unfurling between them, danger and conviction coiling like a precipice ready to break. Then prepare for the consequences of your trespass, the Warborn hissed, gesturing to the shadows that pooled at their feet. Something rumbled deep within the earth, the ancient stones trembling as if awakening from a grotesque slumber. Without warning, billowing tendrils erupted from the earth, infusing the air with fear. They snaked around the crew's ankles, drawing them in, shadows dancing like a creaking symphony, urging them to surrender. As they fought against the living darkness, Joran roared commands to rally the crew, but Dahlia's heart sank at the realization that this was no mere skirmish. The war they had dared to raise had manifested itself and enveloped their very being. The stakes were uncontrollable. Hensel the Fort held within it a heartbeat of chaos, and they had awakened it. Desperate and frenzied, the reality of what lay ahead became unmistakable. Fear spread through them, rooting their hearts in dread. Against the backdrop of shadows, betrayal hung like a noose. Dahlia could feel the weight of destinies coiling tighter and tighter, and the impending clash loomed closer, here in the dying light of Hensel the Fourth Thor. The very fabric of time and fate was being woven anew. Survival, boldness, and a flicker of destiny beckoned them ever closer. In those long moments with darkness battling against light, there lay a choice to be made. Would they succumb to the forces of ancient powers and forget the legacy of courage they sought to embody? Would they break or bend? The shadows danced with violence as they attempted to engulf Dahlia and her crew. A choice sung into existence as the ancient magic threatened to consume them whole. It was no longer just about the Aegis or the rebellion. It was now a fight for their very souls and the future of the forgotten galaxy. And in those shifting shadows, past and present collided, setting the stage for their ultimate reckoning against the Warborn in the looming depths of chaos. The finale awaited eagerly, thrumming with urgency, and it beckoned them towards their fateful choice. The shadows of Hensel the Fourth squirmed like serpents, coiling menacingly around Dahlia Riven and her crew. Dark tendrils surged from the earth, slick with malevolence, and seeming intent on dragging them into the depths of despair. Instinctively, they formed a human barrier against the dark, each member grounding themselves in the strength derived from unity. In the swirling chaos, Dahlia felt her resolve harden. "We will not yield," she shouted above the chaos around them, igniting hope in the sparks of panic that flickered between the crew. "Together we'll face this. Fight back." Jorn bellowed, already discharging his weapon into the sentient darkness that grasped at his legs. The crackle of energy lit up the surroundings, a dance of sparks interspersed with tendrils, snapping in retaliation. Each shot carved a brief respite, the shadows recoiling from the fire of their defiance. But for every surge of energy they unleashed, it felt like the Warborn only grew stronger, the darkness swelling to fill the void, as if fed by their fear. In the ensuing melee, Dahlia felt an almost magnetic pull toward the ancient library. It was a promise of knowledge, a legacy buried beneath layers of dread. "Can you breach the entrance, Vera?" she called out, forcing her heart to keep pace with her pounding blood. "On it!" "I'll try to override the lock," Vera shouted back, her fingers a blur as she worked to decode the ancient technology embedded in the library doors. Dahlia felt the weight of history bearing down on them, driving her resolve deeper still. "Serena, cover her. Gab, stay low and protect our flank." The crew fanned out, each member moving purposefully, intent on fighting back against the shadow that threatened to claim them. Nightmarish whispers echoed all around them, void of words yet rich with temptation and dread. She had never felt fear this profound. It wasn't simply the danger that clawed at her throat. It was the haunting echo of what the Warborn had become. These creatures existed in the space between light and darkness, wraiths of former lives who had perhaps once dreamt of freedom. They could not be vanquished by sheer determination alone. Vera's fingers hesitated briefly as the door vibrated violently in response to their efforts. It's like the door is alive," she shouted, sweat trickling down her brow. "It can sense fear. It feeds off it." Those words struck a chord deep within Dahlia's heart, sparking a memory she hadn't realized she had carried. She recalled her time among the rebels, a blend of adrenaline and power in their shared laughter, the way they lifted each other up when drawn too near despair. Clarity illuminated her thoughts. They needed to shift their approach. "We cannot let fear navigate our paths," she roared, rallying the crew against the overwhelming shadows. "Channel your strength. Remember what brought us here in the first place. The Aegis is more than a relic. It's the manifestation of hope. Who among us has fought for it?" Their gazes locked, and a flicker of determination ignited. "Stand with me," she cried, voice rising to a boiling fervor. "Feel the fire of those we've lost. Let their spirits find sanctuary in our fight." "Together," the crew responded, their voices woven together, a powerful anthem pushing back against the encroaching darkness. Yoren brandished his weapon with vigor, creating paths of light through the consuming shadows. Smoldering trails wrapped around them like armor pieced together from flickers of bravery. Gab and Serena unleashed their firepower, carving arcs through the darkness. Vera, gaining strength from her comrades, surged forward, fingers dancing against the door's surface as she shouted commands to the fading symbols, envisioning each stroke as a battle cry. Behind her, Dahlia sensed the air crackling with fierce energy, her heart racing with the understanding of stakes that lay heavy in the balance. The shadows roared in rage, hissing like venomous serpents, and the atmosphere thickened as more tendrils emerged, lashing out as if attempting to drown their rebirth in darkness. But the crew remained resolute. Their voices melded into unison, constructing a bare thread of hope that intertwined like a binding mechanism, forging a collective will against the looming threat. "Open!" Dahlia shouted, her heart beating as if it were rallying an army. "We seek knowledge. We demand to denounce your chains." Amidst the weight of darkness, something shifted. The clash of wills reverberated through the air as the door quaked in response, languorous curls of energy snapping and coiling. The light intensified as the shield between them crumbled, echoes of ancient power awakening in the ground beneath them. In an instant, the colossal doors burst open with a resounding crash, momentarily scattering the shadows that had encased them. 1,000 echoes channeled through the air, the whispers transformed into melodies that vibrated underfoot, urging the crew forward. "Go, now," Dahlia commanded, leading the charge into the immense library beyond, the scent of ancient technology, a cacophony of metal and memories, washing over them. Pods filled with holographic archives flickered to life, illuminating the space, a riot of colors spilling across the ornately carved walls, lined with technology from epochs long past. The crew scattered into the depths of the library, reaching out to the comforting warmth of long-forgotten knowledge. Dahlia's breath hitched as she sensed it, an energy, palpable and vibrant, humming through her veins, whispering promises of impending triumph. The ancient library wore an aura of dignity, utterly captivating in the face of despair. "Look!" Gab shouted, pointing to a pedestal at the center of the grand atrium. Enshrined upon it the Aegis radiated light, a magnificent orb swirling with hues of blues and golds, radiant threads entwined as if they were woven from the very fabric of the cosmos. "That's it!" Serena exclaimed, moving toward it with reverence. "That's our beacon." Vera, breathless with awe and purpose alike, glimpsed at the chaos still battling behind them, shadows returning like ravenous beasts once denied. "The Aegis, we can use it to drive them back." "Not just that," Dahlia said, a profound sense of purpose surging in her veins. "We don't merely claim it. We awaken it." As they surged ahead, darkness began pooling around them once more, wrapping tighter like a thick fog swirling amid whispers of long-lost legacies. Joined as one, Dahlia held her breath and rested her palm against the Aegis, embers of light flickering along her fingertips as an overwhelming flood of power surged through the very core of her being. The Aegis responded vibrantly, resonance radiating through her like the pulse of a heartbeat, and a kaleidoscope of understanding burst through her mind. Visions flowed in torrents, fragments of ancient battles fought by the rebels who had once stood in defiance against ignorance and oppression, their spirits urging forth strength to brave the shadows. Dahlia could feel each story weaving into a tapestry of possibility, light cascading through her as if generations of warriors were sharing their strength. A wave of belonging surged through her, weaving all her comrades' spirits more closely, filling the gap created by fear, solidifying the bond between them. Together, she repeated softly but fiercely. Together we wield the light. The shadows pivoted, drawn back as if recognizing a danger they could not combat. Pulsating power from the aegis mimicked Dahlia's conviction, channeling greater rays of light that arched outwards, enveloping her crew like a protective shroud. Rallying her comrades tightly, she edged closer to the chaotic darkness as tendrils hissed and lunged, testing the fabric of their newfound resolve. Now, Dahlia commanded, raising the aegis high, the radiance gleaming off its surface, sending out spirals of energy that shattered through the miasma. The golden spirals unleashed torrents of luminescence, cascading through the darkness till they became arcs of blinding light. As the shadows surged forth to reclaim their power, the aegis glimmered like the morning sun, igniting an explosive conflagration that sent them shrieking back. Faster! Channel everything, Yoren shouted, holding tight along Dahlia's side, keeping the surge unwavering. Don't let them draw you in. Dahlia felt each heartbeat, hers, her crew's, meld into a pulse that reverberated across the library, an explosion of light igniting hope, embodied. With a final surge she yelled, "Light of our past and future alike, take back what is ours. Unleash your legacy." The burst resonated outwards, encircling the figures of the warborn. The air rang with the anthems of countless generations, hope beckoning, love igniting, the legacy of both friend and foe weaving through time's fabric to reclaim their right between darkness and light. And then, with the aegis held high, the shadows were torn apart, the tendrils twisting and flailing as they were pulled by the force of the radiant pulse. The warborn shrieked and writhed in agony, their forms dissolving into ethereal mist, voices echoing through the corridors until they dissipated, leaving behind only silence and light. Dahlia and her crew crashed forward, the aura of the aegis flickering gently, calming against the fading violence of ancient shadows. She fell to her knees amidst the golden light, breathing in the silence, overwhelmed by surreal relief and burgeoning triumph. They had prevailed, together. As the bright remnant settled around them, the crew gathered, stooping beside Dahlia, sharing in the warmth of victory, feeling the shadows recede like a distant memory. "We're alive," Sirena muttered in disbelief, brushing away the grime from her arms. I thought that was it. That we fought." Dahlia chimed in, a laugh, joy and disbelief intertwined, escaping her lips. "We fought alongside the legacies of each person who came before us. They're within us, guiding us still." Fira stepped closer, nodding slowly. "The stories remain alive, they're in the aegis beckoning us to continue onward." Yoren surveyed the remnants of the library, awe replacing the exhaustion in his eyes. "We'll rebuild it all. There's more to learn, more to uncover through the new paths unsealed. We hold a key," sustained hope. Each word fell around them like the softest embrace. A pact forged in light, companionship sealing their shared destiny. The liberation they had sought burnt in the air around them, an acknowledgement of a collective journey they had only begun to explore. Dahlia rose, strength pooling into her limbs, cupping the aegis in her hands, now a symbol of their triumph, a bridge between what had been and what was yet to come. "Let's take this light and share it with the galaxy. No one should have to fight, with memories of despair shadowing their past." "But we can't forget our fight, Dahlia," Gab pointed out, his gaze steady. "It's our foundation, our meaning. This light gives us the hope to fight for the forgotten." Dahlia met his gaze, heart swelling with acknowledgement of the struggles past and future. "Then, let it guide us. Let us share our stories as the new custodians of the aegis. History must weave together, binding the lost and the inspired." With renewed purpose cascading through them like the dawn, they retraced their steps, the remnants of the library behind them forever honoring their aspiration. Together they ventured out of the ancient ruins, the dawn of a new horizon stretching into the distance before them. The weight of their journey lightened and lifted by the promise of what lay ahead. As they pushed through the foliage toward the clearing beyond, the open sky greeted them with vibrant stars reflecting a myriad of colors, pulsing gently as if welcoming their fervor back into the universe. They had triumphed over shadows, defining their future and rebirthing a legacy filled with hope. A revelation sparked in the heart of their collective purpose. It was not only about claiming the aegis, it was about redefining their place within the universe and ensuring that no voice, no history, would ever be regarded as diminished. And in that radiant dawn, surrounded by their shared resolve, they ventured forth to awaken the galaxy, ready to forge alliances, to rekindle embers of hope, and to share a light brighter than any darkness. For they were the new chorus, singing a tale unafraid to dance endlessly amid the stars.